Okay, so you're here. You must be here because you heard what we're doing. You must have heard that we're giving away 8 NCLEX review courses to 4 traditional students and 4 delayed, not denied students. You must have heard that my favorite place to work until I got where I am right now, which is endoscopy at the Cleveland Clinic, and I freaking love it. No weekends, love it. No holidays, love it. Call only 3 times a year, love it. Yeah, nurse's job from heaven, right? But before I got this job, my absolute favorite place to work in all my history of being a nurse or nurse midwife was Metro Health Medical Center. That is the best place that I felt addressed healthcare disparities. So Metro Health Medical Center, and my favorite place to walk with God, the Word Church, the best church in America, sorry, I'm biased, is literally joining together to address healthcare disparities in Northeast Ohio and around the suburbs. So how can I help? How can you help? Because you should care about it, right? You should want to help. Well, you can educate yourselves. And by the way, this is not a white or black thing. This is a I care about you thing. So I don't care what color you are. I don't care who you are. I need you to educate yourself about how to address some of these healthcare disparities. And don't get it twisted. While we know the current state of affairs is very, very divisive and encouraging, pitting us against each other, without that issue being addressed, the divisiveness, we can't really address the divisiveness if we don't address our own dirty laundry, right? And by that, I simply mean that sometimes, including myself, as a Black person, we have our own biases. I remember growing up as a nurse, my first nursing job, in a hospital during the 80s. And because of the current environment during the 1980s, I don't know if you remember the 1980s. It was a lot of drugs, a lot of crack, a lot of craziness, a lot of crime. It was awful. And so there I am working in labor and delivery, my very first job out of school. And while I'm working in labor and delivery as a brand new RN, every other person would be African American, not married, pregnant, and a lot of them were positive drug screens or, whatever. And so no prenatal care. And so I developed this bias, honestly, and I'm being real here. I developed this bias like, damn, why can't we as a people get our shit together? What the fuck is this? I mean, we're coming in with all these problems. And I was just perturbed, to be honest with you. And then a few years later, I got a job at another hospital where I saw exactly the same thing. And they were not Black, they were white. And it taught me the most valuable lesson, that some of these stereotypes and racial biases is just from a lack of exposure and education to the real world. And so now I know that poverty and lack of education and those things more than likely affect what's going on, instead of forming this opinion that it's the Black people with all these problems. So I say that to say that I am just as guilty of some of these feelings that might be shared by our white counterparts who we hope will listen to this video. Now let's get started, right? I guess I will say that when I searched YouTube and when I searched through Google and I looked up racial disparities, especially addressing the Black issue, the African American, which is 2 different things, so we're going to talk about that. But when I looked it up to just kind of, make sure I had my shit together, to be honest with you, everything was 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or 10 years old. And I just thought, oh, well, maybe it's time for me to educate myself and put a video out myself. So this video, hopefully 2023, the end of it, will address some of those concerns when you hear, healthcare disparities among Blacks. Now, Black and African American aren't always the same thing. In other words, there is a such thing as Black, and you're nowhere near an African American. In fact, you're African or Dominican or whatever, right? So I am specifically talking about the biases and the disparities that apply to someone of darker complexion and that would be identified by the majority race, which is white, as a Black person. That's it. That's your definition. I'm done. Because it's really at that point that a lot of maybe discrimination occurs, right? They don't care what country you're from. They just see your dark skin and they assume all kinds of things. As I said, even we assume all kinds of things. So we have to be very transparent and honest about it. So let's take a look at what's going on, shall we? What I did was I tried to identify 10 situations where I could explain and teach about healthcare disparities. And if you understand this the way I hope you do, especially those 8 people, you already know there's a review for you. So let's get started, shall we? I have here a couple of research studies because it's not cool to assume, and it's definitely not cool to have research behind you when you talk about disparities, right? So there's a 2021 Blue Cross Blue Shield study talking about the 63% higher perinatal morbidity and mortality, especially among 15 to 24-year-olds. We already knew about that when the lady had the decapitated baby. That really sweet girl lost her child because the shoulders got stuck, and during delivery, the baby was decapitated. We did explore that issue, but I put it up here because it's a recent study, and just so I don't assume that you know what these words mean, morbidity means disease, and mortality means death rate, okay? So that's important to separate in your mind. But then there's a 2022 Pew Research study that also showed that 71% of Black women 18 to 49 experience a very negative reaction or treatment from the healthcare community. Now look at these 2 ages. Here we have 15 to 24. Here we have 18 to 49. And we're talking about women. It's no wonder there's a problem with healthcare among women, especially Black women are dying. And how much are they dying? Well, let's look at it. If you look at maternal mortality, Black women are dying 4 times higher rate. Black babies are dying, brand new babies are dying, up to 2 years old, of course, are dying at a 2 times higher rate. So these are examples of healthcare disparities, but let's go in order. So I put the research out there and we want to look at some of this a little deeper. It's safe to say that being Black is bad for your health in the United States. I didn't coin that term. I wish I did, but I really want you to understand it. So why is being Black bad for your health? Well, your health is directly related to your access and your zip code, which we will hit on a little bit later. But number 2, let's look at some obvious issues that I bet you already knew about and maybe just didn't know related to this topic. For example, there's a 5% higher death rate from asthma in America with Black children and adults. I mean, we're talking death rate, not just asthma as a disease. You are dying from asthma at a 500% higher rate. We already know that there's higher lead levels in water and soil in these patients' homes, in African-American homes. It's just higher, okay? That's just reality. We saw the fiasco with Flint, Michigan. It's not exclusively Black. There are plenty of white people with high lead levels, but the majority of issues with lead, we see a lot of that in the African-American household. Now let's keep talking. If you look at number 3, I think this is a really good example of how deep the disparities go. So this is looking at money, which is often the bottom line. Research dollars, money. If you just take the example of 2 genetic defects, meaning these patients did not do anything to get these diseases. It's not because they ate too much fat. It's not because they like salt. It's not because they didn't wear their seatbelt. It's not because they were, I don't know, whatever blame game you want to use. It's none of that. They were born with the disease. If we look at the 2 genetic diseases where both parents have to have the trait for the child to get the disease, those 2 diseases, sickle cell and cystic fibrosis, are exactly the same kind of pathophysiology, which means the only reason the child got it was because they happened to be that child that was born to two parents with the trait, and now they have the disease. Again, no fault of their own, but looking at the research dollars put into those disease processes, watch this. For sickle cell disease, in which 1 in 2,500 people born get it, versus cystic fibrosis, in which only 1 in 365 people born get it, the research dollars coming through the National Institutes of Health, $800 per person for sickle cell, nearly $3,000 for the person with cystic fibrosis. Consequently, we have way more solutions, if you will, and treatments and people, experts in the field of cystic fibrosis, even though we have literally, what is this? This is 8 times more people born with sickle cell. And I just thought I would point that out because dollars matter, research dollars matter, right? You know how we all walk around on the, what is it, in October, because it's coming up, the breast cancer walk, you know, cancer research matters, so does cystic fibrosis and sickle cell. So I want you to kind of think of that, okay? And what's the difference? Well, sickle cell is primarily African American or Black, because I said I'd use the term Black, and I'm going to stick with that. So sickle cell is primarily Black, and cystic fibrosis is primarily white. It's not exclusively on either side. Don't get it twisted. You can have Blacks, a lot of them, with cystic fibrosis, and guess what? You can have whites with sickle cell. Really, really rare. Latinos, however, Hispanics or Latinos, it's not so rare to have sickle cell with them either. Okay, but we're talking about Blacks, you know, and I want to make sure you hear me loud and clear that we're talking about Black people. What I don't like, and I've seen in the last 10 years, definitely in the last 5, is an attempt to dilute our color. How do you dilute our color? You say the word minorities. You say multicultural. You say that sort of thing. Instead of just saying, this is a Black issue, I'm going to address it as a Black issue. I'm talking about Black people. And that's why I thought I'd do this, because it's really hard to find anything specifically addressing Blacks in the last few years. Yeah. Next on the list, we already talked about maternal mortality being 4 times higher death rate in Black women. And by the way, it doesn't matter about your economic status. So if you're a Black doctor or you're a Black homeless woman, your pregnancy and your maternal health is still 4 times higher. Your death rate is still 4 times higher. When we pull out the economics, it's still 4 times higher. So everybody should give a damn. When it comes to infant mortality, the 2 times higher rate of death in a child has been blaring for a while now. So a lot of this, especially mothers dying, and I do want to point this out because I want you educated. Mothers usually die for one of 2 reasons: either hypertensive emergencies or outright hemorrhaging and bleeding to death. Yeah, but guess what? Those 2 things usually give you a little bit of a warning. So it's so important for providers, healthcare providers like nurses and doctors, to listen to these women. Listen to them, because they're, in so many words, they usually end up having told God knows how many people before they actually died that they felt like there was a problem. If you read Serena Williams and Beyonce's story, they're exactly what I'm talking about, how they were really trying to tell their provider something's not right. Just saying. Next on the list is the Black life expectancy. Now we have a little bit of a joke. It's sad, really. I don't know how much of a joke it is, but we have a little bit of a joke in the African American population. We say we have no idea why Black males are obligated to pay into Social Security because they're usually dead before they get to use it. Well, that's kind of true. The life expectancy for Blacks is at its lowest since the year 2000. It's 71 years old. Yeah, so that is insane, because why are we going down in our life expectancy? What is going on here? This is not normal. And why might that be? Well, some of it has to do with the highest cancer death rate. So we have Blacks have the highest cancer death rate out of all populations and ethnicities in this country, okay? Moving on, I want to point out while I'm on the cancer tip, there is in females, Black females, a 40% higher death rate from breast cancer. Yeah, so we know that. And so when we look at this Health Empowerment Expo, this Metro Health Medical Center and the Word Church of Cleveland, Ohio, getting together to address these issues, the mammograms alone are worth the time and effort. I mean, just getting screened any kind of way for blood pressure is huge. So we're gonna have fun at this expo. I can't wait. It's September 30th. It's from 11 to 4:30. And I'm gonna be there with bells on. And I need you to help me because, you know, it's a lot of work. Okay, moving on. When you look at more healthcare disparities in Blacks, we are also looking at mental health, right? Because we already know that the largest killer of any child in America is gun violence. But the second killer, before the guns made number one, the second killer of children is suicide. So let's just kind of make sure we address that. So more Black teenagers attempt suicide, even though more white teens die from it. And that generally goes back to how did they try to kill themselves, right? Because obviously the most powerful way to kill yourself is a gun. And so we see that a lot of times the white teens get the gun and boom, they're dead. Whereas the Black people still attempt more suicide. They have more suicidal attempts, but whatever method they use, they live through that. Either way you go, no matter what, any suicide attempt is based on underlying depression, and that is mental health. Blacks are only 13% of the United States. I want to say that loud and clear before we forget that we can't do this alone. Before you start thinking, well, we just need to do bloop, bloop, bloop. No, all of us, white, Black, Asian, Latino, whatever, all of us need to address this issue. And it kind of kills me because sometimes when you look on the media, they'll have this Black story and they'll make the Black anchor person give it. It's like, see, right there. It's as if to say, well, if you're a white anchor person, you don't need to address it. You don't need to even care. They always pull some Black anchor person. Watch it, because I do. I study this shit. And they make them address this Black issue. In fact, I was just looking the other day at one of the local news channels, and they did this big, beautiful, happy, fun story on Latino month, right? And I'm thinking I had to write them, same news channel, a letter because they literally did nothing for Black History Month. So it's subtle things like that, isn't it? It's subtleties like that that make you go, So what am I saying? I'm saying if Blacks only make up 13% of this country, we can't address this by ourselves, right? We can't do it. So if your job has some diversity, inclusion project, why does it have to be us that presents? It dilutes the importance of the issue if only Black people are addressing it. You see, that's just fact. It should be someone white also addressing it with someone Black to give credibility to the issue anyway. I'm just saying, these are things I notice. So anyway, as we look on it, we think about 13% of the United States is Black. 40% of the prison population is Black. And I'm sorry, but if you're in prison, you're going to have, before you went in there, you might have already had it, but for sure when you come out, you're going to have some issues with health. You're going to have some issues with healthcare access, healthcare period, because it's the worst healthcare in the world in prison. And you are going to have some PTSD just based on the fact that you were in four walls for God knows how long. And that's important for you to realize, because we have the highest incarceration rate in the world. And most of those, again, 40%, are Black. Okay. Number 8, 90% of Blacks older than 12 years old, hear me clearly, 90% of Blacks older than 12 years old with the substance use disorder, whatever you want to call it, substance abuse disorder, never get treated. Yeah. So I'm thinking about all the wonderful inpatient treatments that I've seen where they're luxurious. You're going to be eating lobster. You sleep on a soft bed. Your insurance is going to cover it. Nah, that ain't our story. No, in fact, in the 1980s, they had treatment, all right. You know what it was called? Sit your ass in jail. Yeah, we were arrested and incarcerated, and those people, some of them are still there. And so we know that the dichotomy in how substance use is treated with Blacks versus whites is worlds apart. We know that it's the whole, zero tolerance of drugs and all the things that you heard back in the 80s. We know that 3 strikes and you're out. All that stuff meant that a whole generation of people spent a lot of time in jail for sometimes the very drug that is legal in God knows how many states. Think about that. Because you already know, once you take that person out of the home, you took income out of the home, you increase poverty in the home, you also increase problems with children and education, and just it's a never-ending cycle when you put someone in the family in prison, okay? So, number 9, in Ohio, let's bring it closer to home, shall we? We should bring it a little closer, huh? Here in Ohio, Blacks are 45% more likely to die of heart disease deaths, right? So there's a 45% higher rate of heart disease death in just Ohio among Blacks. There is, are you ready? Because I've always said sugar is the devil. There's a 77% higher rate of diabetes death among African American. So if you think about heart disease and diabetes, that alone covers a lot of people dying from those issues. And it's obviously higher among Blacks, right? Okay, here we go. Number 10, Blacks are 4 times more likely to have kidney failure and lupus, which if you have lupus, you already know what I'm about to say. The number 1 cause of death for the lupus patient is kidney failure. So the autoimmune disease of lupus is more Black than anybody else. Kidney failure is more among Blacks than anybody else. Have you ever wondered why you see a dialysis center on every corner? And that is an education issue as much as a disparity issue. So I just want to put that out there. So hopefully you know the 10 examples of healthcare disparities. And wait a minute though, knowing about them doesn't matter. Why did they happen? Might. Because unless you know why something is occurring, then how would you ever address it? Let's try to look at some of the reasons why, shall we? I said in the very first entry here that your race impacts your health, right? But how did that race impact your health? Why is being Black bad for your health? Well, because where Black people live, the zip code, and the access that they have to a lot of things that impact your health are the 2 main components of why we see the differences. So let's look at the zip code, shall we? The zip code equals health. Segregation, we already know what that is. If you in Cleveland right now, you already know West Side, East Side. You know that there is a line, an invisible line between those 2 sides of the city that tells you that one side, you already know what color that's going to be. The other side, you know what color that's going to be. And that matters. And I know that we're in this divisive type of environment where if you're Black, including myself, because of the latest presidential election and the fact that half the people voted for a clear racist self-declaring nationalist person running for office, they felt comfortable voting for that person. So most of us Black people said, wow, if half the country thought that was a great president, like he was worthy of their vote, then that means half the country's okay with racism. And that's just real. That's facts, people. So when you look at this divisive situation and you think about segregation and the fact that our cities are becoming more white and more Black, how does that really impact health? Here we go. With segregation, you have literally, the more segregated your community is, there is a higher cancer death rate. There's a higher cancer death rate. There is higher episodes of asthma. There is higher deaths from asthma. There is higher lead levels in water. There is higher lead poisoning levels in children. Why? Because as much as we may, as Black people, think of the Black Wall Street as an alternative to the fact that half our country thinks voting for racist is okay, as much as we have thought, fine, we'll just go off by ourselves and we'll have our own hospital, our own schools, our own churches, our own this and our own that, and we'll do fine. Reality is no, that is not what happens. What happens is the Blacker the community, the less money's received. So you have worse streets, you have worse schools, you have situations where even the healthcare is substandard. I mean, I, for one, have looked at 2 hospitals. I looked at one out in Avon, and I looked at one in the inner city of Cleveland, and even the resources for the same hospitals in the same hospital system were worlds apart. It was like we was the projects down here versus way out there is like suburbia. They get the best of everything. And that has traditionally been true forever. Okay, so let's not get it twisted. If you think that 13% of a country can build this elaborate, extravagant city called the Black Wall Street, that may be a great dream, but it's not reality. We still need to look at what segregation does to healthcare. Just this year, Cleveland, WKYC TV, in 2023, did a story about how Cleveland is the most segregated city in the country. And they pointed out how that impacts your health, including asthma, lead levels, air pollution, cancer deaths from air, poor air quality, and on and on and on. I could go on and on, but you get it. So this is one reason why disparities exist as well. Representation. I want you to understand that right now in this country, with 13% of the country being Black, only 5% of doctors throughout the country call themselves Black. And I am so sick and tired of working at different hospitals. And there is no single one that I'm isolating out. No, I worked at every hospital. But when I work at these hospitals, and it didn't matter where they were, suburbs, inner city, rural areas, wherever they were, they always had this really cool historical board of doctors. Like, what I mean by that is like the whole wall is covered with all these wonderful doctor pictures. And most of them go from 1960s all the way up to 2023. And honestly, there was probably 0.000.0.0.1% Black. This is a problem because we know statistically, especially Black males, but just Black people in general, have a distrust of providers that don't look like them, especially in mental health. You feel kind of like you really don't want to share too much with the man unless the man looks like you. There is a cultural misunderstanding sometimes that exists. We already know that. You want to know an example? I know, because you don't really believe some of this, some of you, because you haven't been alive long enough to understand it. But let me give you an example. I ran an OBGYN office for about 20 years. I did. It was wonderful. I had a good time. And what I noticed is when I had the conversation with Black women about the absolute dangers of douching, they said, probably about 80% of those women said, you know, Shelly, white doctors had told me that, but I figured they don't know nothing about our health. And I just didn't listen. And so you telling me for real that douching is bad for you? I said, yes, dear, it absolutely is horrific for you. It's the worst thing you can do. Stop it. Cut it out. That's why you keep coming back in my office with this pH imbalance and all this bacterial vaginosis, because you keep douching, trying to clean yourself, and that's not helping you. It's making it worse. And their feeling was they had been told this by white people before, with MD after their name, or nurse midwife or nurse practitioner after their name, with excellent experience and wonderful people, good doctors. But until they heard it from someone who looked like them, they refused to believe it. And that's just real. Just saying. Number 3, we have an issue with access. Oh, I know when you hear the word access, you think of healthcare, right? No, it's not just healthcare, but it does matter. So I have here uninsured, but if I'm really honest, and I think you would agree with me, I would say the underinsured is even worse. What do I mean by underinsured? Because everybody in here knows what uninsured is. Uninsured, you have no insurance at all, period, keep it moving. Underinsured means your deductible is $2,000. But they can say you got insurance so they don't get in trouble with the government. Your copay is $50. Your, out-of-pocket expense is 20%. That is called underinsured, which is one of the reasons why I applaud the Cleveland Clinic, because I work there and they have the best insurance benefits for their nurses. And I'm sure everybody else that works there, but I'm just saying, I did an analysis and the Cleveland Clinic's benefits are thebomb.com. So I applaud them because it does matter. It is why I chose to work at the clinic and I love what I do. So you have 11% Blacks, uninsured at all, like no insurance, versus 7% non-Blacks. And I personally see the biggest problem after 26 years old. The young person after 26 years old is dropped from their parents' insurance, if they're so blessed to have a parent that's insured. And now they move into this group of people that have no insurance at all. And sometimes they don't prioritize insurance. I know for our family, we have someone that had appendicitis, and that bill was outrageous, and they had no insurance because they were definitely older than 26. So these are just some examples, but we're not done with the access issue. Another access issue is transportation. Hear me clearly. Having transportation makes the difference between whether you go to that doctor's appointment, you attend that wonderful expo from Metro Health in the Word Church downtown, you go to your school and you go to your job and you spend less time on the public transportation and you have more time for family. It matters in so many ways. And let's just keep it real. This inflation has done horrifying things for the car industry. Your average cost of a used car is $27,000 for a used car that is probably within 3 to 5 years of age. Your average cost for a brand new car is $48,000 as of this year. We used to buy houses for that. I know it sounds crazy because I'm old, but $48,000 for a fucking car is crazy. I'm just saying. Number 5, or part of number 3, is food deserts. Oh my God. I remember growing up and watching grocery store after grocery store closed down as I became an adult, as I got older as an adult. Inner city access to good food does not exist, but I will tell you one thing. You can get 2 hamburgers for $2 at Rally's or whatever. And I'm just trying to tell you that when you have a food desert, you have more obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and kidney failure in that environment. You just do. There is no getting around it. If you have nothing but fast food restaurants around you and no grocery stores where you can buy fresh food, and when you do try to buy fresh food, or even some of these salads, so-called salads, at the fast food restaurant, let me tell you something. Salads cost way more than a burger. So the fact that food that's shitty is cheaper for you, and you're in areas where the poverty rate might be pretty high, is another reason why there's these disparities in our healthcare. And the grocery stores, I mean, I'll never forget, we all know that once blacks move in and whites move out, called white flight back in the day, the grocery store is going to close. No matter what grocery store it is. It might be Walmart, right? So if you think of Bedford, that Walmart closed. As Mayfield started getting more blacks in, and Lyndhurst, now the Walmart there that had some food for you, they closed. I mean, it's ridiculous. And not that Walmart was somewhere I'd want to shop, but if you don't have any choice, it's better than nothing. It's certainly better than fast food. My God, okay? Just saying. And what's moved in? Canes, just saying. So you have these food deserts. Lastly, I want to say, and we are finishing up because I'm trying to get you a free review. We are going to talk about the fact that the digital divide has helped and hurt healthcare for blacks, okay? Because I will never forget sitting there with my mama, who was at the time about 80, maybe even like, I don't know, 78, and them telling her, because she was about to have a mastectomy, them telling her to register for her pre-op online. How in the hell is a 78-year-old woman going to register online? And the only reason she was successful is because of us, but everybody doesn't have a us to help her. Everybody doesn't have a daughter or daughter-in-law that is a nurse that could help do all these things. The other thing is my chart. And, you know, we say my chart, but what we really mean is your electronic health record that you have a right to and that you deserve to be able to look at and understand. Well, I don't know about you, but my family calls me immediately and says, okay, I just had some labs drawn. Can you help me locate them in my chart and tell me what they mean? You know, it's one thing to give me my chart. It's another thing to explain what the hell does this mean? And so the more we get into technology and we just give you my chart, the less the doctor has to do with explaining in person what these labs mean for your health. And then we have a lack of understanding and knowledge base on what did it all mean when I went for the physical anyway. I remember my student coming in and she said, well, I took your advice. You always say when we graduate from your class, our priority is to go get a physical. I went and got a physical. I got everything done, my labs and everything. I never heard back from the provider. And then I checked my mail and I got a lab. I got my labs in the mail, but one of the labs that I got in the mail said that my hemoglobin A1C was 6.5. And I remember learning in class that a 6.5 is diabetes, right, Shelly? I'm like, absolutely, a 6.5 is diabetes. Well, they didn't even call me and tell me about it. I'm just glad I learned it in your class, because what if I didn't and I just continued doing what I'm doing? It spurred me into action. Like, I don't want diabetes. You said that was the worst disease on earth to get. Absolutely, I said that. But we're not talking about nursing students in Shelly class. We're talking about real people being given their labs and their test results online and not understanding what any of it means. We're talking about the fact that telehealth is great because it closed the gap for mental health professionals to reach their patients, but it's not so great for a select few people. Let me explain. The research shows that poor Black women suffer the most from not being able to access telehealth for different appointments. And I'm sorry, but there's a thread here if you haven't figured it out. Poor Black women. I bet that didn't help the infant and maternal morbidity or mortality rate, because that's childbearing age women. Oh, okay. You following me, right? Here's another issue. The best example I can give you for the digital divide is when they had you register for your COVID vaccine online. Oh my God, was that stupid? Because the majority of people dying from COVID were elderly. And the Black elderly, I promise you, they have very, 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 very wide digital divides compared to their white counterparts. What does that mean? That means they don't have a laptop. That means they don't know how to access this on their cell phone. That means that these two reasons could be the cause of not getting a life-saving vaccine. Remember, the elderly died the most in COVID times, and they had no idea. So what did I see? Oh yeah, Lee and Harvard, a Black area, had all white people in line for COVID vaccines. Swear to God. Why? Well, because our Black people in that area had no idea how to use the computer to get their vaccine appointment. But you better believe the Rocky River white folks did, and they didn't mind coming downtown getting those vaccines. I'm not mad at them, but it shows another disparity in healthcare. Older patients with chronic health conditions are dying because they don't know how to access healthcare information and even their own healthcare results online. Now, this was just the tip of the iceberg, but I thought I needed to do something to prepare you for what I believe is our responsibility as nurses and doctors and just people to care enough about each other, including Black health, to make a difference. My difference that I make is education. I don't know how you make a difference. Probably the biggest difference is that you sat through this entire 45-minute video, and that alone says you care. So I'd like to thank you if you've reached the end. And now for the freebies. Yes, if you want a free review, I'm going to do a verbal conversation with you to see how much of this you absorbed. My number is 216-410-0936, and I expect to hear from you between now and September 29th. And you will find out on September 30th, you will find out on September 29th who it is that gets to go with me. You'll find out by that time. Most of you'll find out way before, but I'll keep it open for that long lost person who didn't hear about it till later. But you get to find out who gets to come with me to this Health and Empowerment Expo and who gets that free review. Remember, part of the criteria is that you have to join me at this Healthcare Expo on September 30th between 11 and 4:30. I hope this helps your understanding of healthcare disparities. Deuces, as I always say, I'm out.